Well, hello, welcome back to the fish locker out on the rocks. Now we're out in the northeast on a rock mark and we're fishing for cod. Now the wave noise might be quite loud because the ideal fishing conditions for cod like this is with a bit of sea running, and we're underneath the cliff so it's echoing. I don't know how well you can see my rod, but it's dropped up there. We've had to climb down an area of cliff, so you take very little with you. Just what you need, so your rod, your reel, a bit of tackle. I'm fishing with my good friend Tom Rowe, he's just down the way there. To be honest, I'm completely in his hands. This isn't the type of fishing that I do very often, whereas he really does enjoy this type of fishing. So in a minute, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get him to come and talk to you about the rigs that we're using and the baiting up techniques. Just because I feel like he'd be able to give you a better explanation because he does it more often than me. Tackle is very simple. Fishing on hard ground, tackle losses are inevitable, so you don't want to be getting lots and lots of tackle. Your gear needs to be tough. Tom's already just lost one fish in the surf. Come stuck about 30 yards out, and as he was bouncing the lead out, bounced the fish off. We are fishing at ebbing tide. Now I've explained in videos before how to read the rock, how to read the shore. A bit of watercraft showing you how to tell where the gullies are, because you're fishing into gullies. This area of ground, we checked it out during the day, spotted where the gullies would be, and we're casting into those, because fish will run into these gullies to feed. I'll show you this rod now, why I keep turning around to it. Yeah. Because we brought minimal tackle, don't have my tripod, I just stood my rod up in the rock like that. And I'm just watching the rod tip. And what you're waiting for, cod give a really good bite. You can see it bowing there in the tide. Just when it goes, it's just waves. What we're waiting for is like a proper positive bite. The rod that I'm using is a 13-foot Shimano Katana, and I'm using my Pen Affinity 7500, and I think I've got 60-pound fire line and 100-pound shock leader on. I'll walk you out and show you what we're fishing over. You can see this is just hard shale, but the ground out there, this is what it's like. Lots of weed and lots of big boulders. I don't really like to wear waders because I don't like getting swamped. Just had a good bite there, just pulled the rod over. Yeah, I don't like wearing waders because I don't like the chance of getting swamped, and you'll see I've got a life jacket. Mr. Victorious.
Well, I don't quite think it's fish and chips all round, but there's a start.
Yeah, mate. Yeah. Stay where you are. There you go.
Small little cod taking on a bluey and carp bait. Nicely hooked by the top chino there, just in the top there.
Popped your lead off. Oh, your pennel got it, did it?
Yeah. Get it unhooked.
I'll let you get that unhooked. So yeah, that worked. I've just had a good bite there. I turned round and missed it. Pulled the rod over. I'm going to go and see if I can find out what's going on here. I'll let Tom unhook that. Fingers crossed, that's the start of them coming on the feed. We're getting a bit of tidal surge now. So we're probably 80 yards down there, stood on a rock holding the rods. We've left all the gear up here so it doesn't get hit by the water. I've just picked myself one up on a little patch of bluey, again on the pennel hook. There, look in the corner of the mouth. That was bluey and cart, but this fish also has a second snood in its mouth. So this one's too small for me to keep. I'm not going to keep this one. But what I am going to do is I'm going to take the other hook out of its mouth. So it's been very lucky that I've caught it. You can see this is a member of the cod family by this little bib here. They've got a huge mouth, haven't they? Cavernous mouth. Big baits are no problem for these fish. You'd get a fillet off it, but I'm not after something that size. See if I can't get that second trace out of its mouth. They're just hoovering up anything out there, aren't they? Well, it's not one of our traces anyway. See if I'm going through the gill and get it on. There you go. That's a bronzed Aberdeen style hook. Sorry. There's a bronzed Aberdeen style hook. So a very lucky fish. Let's get it put back. And there's another fish of a similar stamp. Managed to find just a perfect little gully to cast into. There you can see it's just a pulley rig with a rotten bottom set up for a grip lead. Come here. Look at the size of that mouth. Absolutely mullered that bait, hasn't it, look? Taken both hooks. Spitting up fish as well, I think. That's what he's been eating. Little blennies. Hold still. We'll have to go through the gill again. Sometimes if you can turn the hook out through the gill, turns it round and pulls it out. Right there, look, as I was saying, if you can turn the hook out of the gill, you can turn it round and push it out, look. There you go, sorry, the battery died then. Another nice little codling. Unhooked, ready to go back. We'll leave it in this rock pool around here to recover and then we'll take it into the water. Yeah, not been so bad. Not been too bad so far. The little strips of Pulley and cart are really killing it. This is all the rig is. It's just really simply a pulley rig. Everything runs through that pulley bead there, so that when you hook up, your lead is well out of the way. It's running on, I think that's a splashdown, is it? With a rotten bottom setup, so that you hook it on when you cast out, and then when it hits the bottom, you're held on by 30-pound mono. So if the lead comes fast, you can snap that out. And then we've got, I think, 60-pound rig body and 60-pound main line. It's 60-pound rig body and 60-pound hook length, and we've got, that looks like, it might even be a 6.0, probably a 6.0. Looks like a 545 Manta, and that's a chino. Yeah, keeping it simple is really working, and that was Pulley and cart. See the bite? Because of the ground that we're fishing, and because you can see what the water's like, you're better off standing holding your rod like Tom's doing there, look. And all you do is you just stand and watch the tips. You can even sit, we've been stood talking without the lights on, and you just feel them going. So I'm just standing there with him.
Knock on this right on the rod.
We're also just talking there, we were saying that you can feel when it's just a lunge with a wave or a bit of kelp. When it's a bite, it's unmistakable. You can see how coloured the water is. Ready when you are. Tom's been getting a bite, he's just letting it develop.
The occasional tap. I don't know if the lead's anchored in. The fish hasn't got much movement, so you don't get a full taste.
There's two of the decent ones. Gives you some type of an idea. Fantastic looking fresh run fish. Right, I've got Tom, and he's going to go through the two rigs that we've been using. We're up out of the way because it was a little bit too much wind noise down there. So the first rig we were using was a Pulley, wasn't it?
Yeah, so pulley panels. Sometimes if it's really tough ground, get rid of your top panel, just have a normal pulley. It's one less thing to snag up with.
Now when I make mine, I always have detachable hook lengths, but all you did was you just made up a load of pulleys, didn't you? And then pre-baited it, so you just changed trace for trace.
Yeah, just expect that you're going to lose rigs. It's the nature of the beast with rough ground fishing. So one swivel there, it just keeps rig
just
cheap.
Follow that. So your hook length's only, what's that, a foot and a half?
Yeah, I tend to hold when I'm tying them. I tend to hold it in about arm's length, something like that.
So you've got your hook length straight to a barrel.
That's £60 the snood there, and it's £60 in the rig body as well.
And then you run yours down to, what did you say that was? An imp?
Just a breakaway imp, yeah.
from the bottom of that, this was something that I haven't done before. Is he opens up the bottom of his lead and has a £30 mono weak link.
Just sits in the bottom of the impact.
So I'll just show that again. Look, because he's opened that eye out, the imp sits on it. So when you cast like that, when it hits the bottom, it'll release.
This is £25, so that's your rotten bottom.
So if this gets snagged, that'll snap before the rig will. So if you hook them into a decent fish, you'll only lose your lead. You'll get your rig and your fish back.
We had that a couple of times today,
Yeah.
thankfully.
Yeah, I lost just the one lead, but yeah, got the fish at the end of it.
So for 90% of my fishing, I'll use pulley pennel, no problems. However, sometimes I just feel you get an unusual bite sometimes. The cod doesn't seem to shy off. They won't take the bait properly, and I have an inkling that they don't like the resistance. They're not like a commercial carp. They're not caught week in, week out. But it just seems to be some nights they don't like the resistance. So I changed to this rig. I wouldn't know what you would call it, but it's effectively like a moving paternoster, John.
Yeah, it's almost like a pulley dropper. Because do you clip that down?
It just sits on the
Yeah. Well, all it is then is it's just a sliding paternoster.
So it's again £60 rig snood. I make these a little longer, gives you a bit of abrasion resistance.
So what have you got there? You've got one,
just a swivel,
2 foot length,
2 foot length of £60 or 70, whichever.
and then you just run a normal pulley bead on there, don't
Just
you?
a pulley bead and just a little rotten bottom clip.
So I've noticed that with most of these, your rough grounding rigs, very few components, and they're all simple components.
Yeah, something that's the more they complicate things, that's more knots, it's more things that are going to fail, and it's just adding to cost. It's just unnecessary. When you think about a rig, your rig has, to me, two purposes. It's got to present the bait in the ground, and it's got to protect itself from the ground at which it's in. So why overcomplicate things? Here in our coastline, a 70-yard, 50-yard lob will catch the fish.
Well, that was it. The baits and the rigs that we were casting today were big baits.
Yeah.
We weren't getting 100 yards, and we were still in amongst the fish.
We're fishing £60 braid, £70 braid straight through you. They're not low diameter braids. You're not going to be casting to the moon and back. So again, we've got the rotten bottom there. This time with the little rotten bottom clips, you don't need to open out the eye. Tend to try and get your knot away from the actual loop itself, so it frees it up.
We were fishing both pulleys, and then you had a couple of shy bites, didn't you? And then you switched over to that rig. And then how many fish did you have?
3 at the end on these. Unfortunately, the pushing tide meant we've had to leave the mark, but safety first, I suppose.
We're going to give a baiting up demo now. We were thinking about doing it as we were fishing, but we really had to capitalise on the moving tide, so we were concentrating on the fishing. Now that we've got a little bit of time, we'll talk you through how we were baiting up. Now Tom is actually using a bait mate. Now I've never used them, I always make mine by hand, but when you watch him do it, you'll realise why they're so popular.
I've always just baited up by hand. I was rather sceptical of buying a baiting tool, but I did give it a go, and I purchased it around about a month ago, and it is a brilliant little tool. When you're big sloppy baits, it's just a lot easier.
Right, so the baits I was using, I just used carp and bluey. You were mentioning to me earlier, you were saying that you found at the end of the season that fish baits fish better.
Fish baits can fish better later on in the season. I would always take the basics. Well, the bulk of your bait is either going to be bluey or squid. In this case, it's octopus, but very similar bait. But squid or bluey is effectively going to be your bulk of your bait, which you're going to add crab or black log or mussel to the bait. So we'd start off by either which. I tend to use a 6-0 earlier in the season. We're into February now. We're at the back end of the cod season, so I've scaled down a 5-0 and we use slightly smaller baits. Right, so we'll take a section of bluey, somewhere out this midsection.
If I was fishing for bullus, I would use that entire piece.
Now, because we're going to back other baits onto it, if I just use the half, it's almost like
I'd noticed that you were
like
doing
a dinner
that,
plate to add to.
But also, It's a
more
larger
scent.
surface area for the scent out.
Yeah. So just a piece like that. Get a nice hook hold in the bluey, just so we're going to get a nice hook point showing. And there's a small groove on the end there. We just place. I always throw my lead well to my left. And that keeps, if it's jammed in a rock, it keeps this under pressure. And it keeps the hook there inside the tool.
That's a good little tip. So you're holding the line under tension.
Yeah.
So you can
It keeps everything neat.
So it keeps the hook inside this as well.
I just tend to throw the lead away and it'll get jammed in something. So I put a bit of bait elastic on just to keep that in position. And you can find the end. And then pretty much it's just a matter of adding what you fancy. On the northeast coast here, you'll struggle to find an angler without either cart or what we call wings. It's the internals of a female edible crab.
Tom actually did a brilliant piece on explaining cart. I'll tag that into the description of this video.
So your cod bait is, it's about scent. We're not you're typically fishing in rough seas, clouded water.
Well, you saw the colour of the water when we were sat up on that rock.
Yeah.
They weren't finding the baits by sight. It was all about the scent.
So don't be shy with your bait elastic. It's not a competent bait. It's quite very soft. So we want to hold it together in a bit of sea. We don't want to cast it out and have it washed apart in 2 minutes flat.
This is something that me and Tom have kind of laughed about. I mean, we're both from the same area, which is renowned for people being very tight. Tom uses massive baits. I'm a little bit more stingy. He was throwing out some fantastic baits earlier and I was using half the amount. And at one point in time I thought I was going to beat him. But the bigger baits did pull the better fish at the end. Tom was knocking out these real big baits and I was using maybe this much, whereas he was using twice the amount.
You can see with the tool here we've still got a nice hook point. There's no point in building up this big bait, masking your hook point. A cod takes the bait, you're not going to get a hook hold, which is the key at the end of the day.
You're just sliding it off there.
Yeah, you just sometimes they're a bit difficult to get off, but if you could put your thumb at the back of your bait, take a good hold, it should just pull out nicely. Take your pennel, wrap it around a few times to try and anchor it in position. Place it in the top of the bait. It should leave you with a rather nice presentation.
Well, it does definitely. You've got your two hooks proud. Those were the size of the baits. Well, you can see there the size of my hand, how big those baits were that Tom was knocking out there. I was using them half the size. I was catching fish, but Tom caught more and he caught bigger fish on the bigger baits.
Well, it's just scent. There's twice the volume of scent. The cod isn't in the dark hunting around for the visual. It's all about that scent. That will break up. Small rocklins will peck at it, small crabs, and it's just introducing more scent into the flow.
Brilliant. Thank you. These were really difficult conditions to film in, so I hope the video has turned out alright. I hope there's been some useful information in there for you, and all the best.